Hello. Let's see how many things can go wrong today. It's been what? Fucking 2 months. Crazy. Anyway, there's been a reason for that though. So I was just checking that everything went through. It appears to have done that. So that's good. Nice little stuff. I hate streaming in the afternoons because there's always the builder, and like there's a thing with me where I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure other people are like this. Let me just check that my sound's working. Hang on. I just had a nagging suspicion that I was going to be talking without sound. Hang on. No, we're good. Okay, I think we're okay. Tell me if there's that problem. I haven't calibrated any of the sound, so I apologize. It's been quite a break and it's just been sitting here and I haven't configured anything. You know how that 2 months ago I was going to configure a new computer and like set it all up? Guess what happened? Sat here, didn't configure it. Looked at it half an hour before the stream. Wasn't configured. I've been busy. But no, it's just, there's been reasons for why I haven't been streaming. Mostly because you get bored of it. But, well, not bored. I think what happens is that you lose momentum. Okay. Hi, Freaky Red Star's here. Hello. Let me check that the chat's not come up either. Oh, for fuck's sake. All right. Did it come up? No. Just having a very good day already. Anyway, so look, I think the problem with a lot of this sort of YouTube stuff is, well, first of all, like the epic amount of effort, time, expense, hassle, just even if you don't get like bullshit, okay, even without that, like I've always had this philosophy with my career. Thankfully, I've been fortunate to have a philosophy with my career, but I'm just, I'm very grateful for that. And I'm not saying that it's luck. I'm saying it's, it's deliberate. It's not luck. It's, having a high tolerance for risk, being, okay with, bursts and not bursts of money and living invoice to invoice and the insecurity that comes with, this life. I'm not saying there's not a cost. It's not easy. I'm not going to be one of those fucks. Those people on LinkedIn that rewrite their fucking history and that, when they make their first $1 million, they think that every decision they ever made was why they made that $1 million. That's not what I'm doing. Okay. I haven't made $1 million. I'm saying quite the opposite. I'm being honest about people. I'm being honest about the fact that it's one thing to talk about risks and risks that pay off in hindsight and that hustle and grind and all that bullshit that comes with business, right? There's this whole mythology around that. And I try to not perpetuate any bullshit around business. But again, I know I kind of went off on a tangent. I'm probably going to do that more than I usually would because I'm, haven't done this for a while. But one of the things that I've always tried to do is to make sure that when I'm doing something, that there's some payoff. Okay. And I don't mean in terms of money. It's not always about money. It can just be about, for the sake of it, for the fuck of it, for entertainment, company, right? It could just be, money's nice. It's always nice. But, something like I'm just trying to think of someone who might have an expensive hobby, like say a photographer, musicians. Let's say you play in a band or anything else. You got to buy gear. There's practice. You got to practice every day, to be able to even just sort of gig for fun, even though it doesn't pay much. There's still sort of a cost and there's still an effort and there's still expense involved with that stuff. And there's also opportunity cost. And so for me, it's just been, okay, where's the best place to put my time, my money, my effort, my energy? And that was sort of where at the end of last year, it's not like, oh, I'm not making any money. Fuck that shit. It's not that simple. Because you can not make money and still have something be worthwhile. That's what it means to be a socialist, is that you think that some things matter more than money, right? There's different types of work and different meaning, different value. Anyway, one thing I've always tried to do an audit at the end of every year is whether what I'm doing makes me happy. And again, I know this is like, fucking, middle class bullshit, but whatever. But also whether or not like all of the effort, all the bullshit, all of the, like I said, it's quite expensive to run this stuff. I've got to run a second computer. I've got a lot of gear. Like I know a lot of people just go, oh, well, just get your iPhone and do Canva and just use Wix. And it's just, well, like, no, but to do it properly and correctly and, you hit a ceiling very quickly with no gear. You hit a ceiling very quickly when you're relying on other people's artwork. You hit a ceiling very quickly when you're stuck with Google fonts. When you actually, or whatever, right? Things cost money. You hit a ceiling very quickly when you're dependent on another platform. All of these things, there's trade-offs and costs and, benefits and costs with everything. Everything is sort of a trade-off. And so that's where YouTube sort of has always kind of been, well, it was fun while I was learning how to do it. I mean, that was fun. It was fun. And content was easy when I was focused on culture wars shit. Because every single day there's a story that you can riff on, right? It's ridiculous. The world's fucking ridiculous. You've all lost your minds. Everyone's lost their fucking minds. Anyway, that's another rant. I'll finish this thought before I move on to the next rant. New Year's resolution. I've broken that already, but we'll get there. But look, this is where when you're talking about the culture wars, it's kind of low-hanging fruit. Now, I'm not going to diminish what it takes to get a lot of followers. I'm not going to diminish what it takes to get a lot of money out of a YouTube channel. I'm not going to diminish the work that it takes. But in terms of content, the culture wars is low-hanging fruit. You've got a ready-made radicalized audience. You've got, you know, sports teams willing to cheer on whatever bullshit affirms their like bullshit worldview. And this will get to why people lost their fucking minds. Anyway. But, you know, at the end of the day, when you start to see what the impact of that, the net impact of this stuff, there's no benign way to participate in that stuff without contributing to a bigger problem. And there's knock-on questions. There's more questions that follow up from this question, which is always, you know, all of these things tend to cascade for me. I think, and then I think about the next thing, and then I think about the next thing. But if I start with the idea that this culture wars stuff, first of all, it's a big fucking distraction from any real issue. The second any real issue gets swept up in the culture wars and taken over by right-wing fuckheads, okay, and they use it for whatever fucking bullshit that they're trying to peddle on any given day, the issue loses all gravity, all logic, all reason, and you can no longer have a reasonable conversation about this stuff. I don't care what anyone says. You can either feed that thing or you can refuse to feed that thing. And unfortunately, there's no real way to not feed that thing, that, you know, that bullshit machine that radicalizes and causes people emotional harm. It radicalizes them. There no influencers are considering the duty of care that they have towards their audiences. And I've talked about this in previous videos, and I will probably, you know, continue to go over this in a bit more detail as time goes on. But this fucked up symbiosis with, you know, with content creators and audiences, but also cynical actors and bad actors taking this stuff and just not giving a shit. They have no sense of ethics, no sense of the duty of care, no sense of like obligation to do anything good other than make money and get clicks and get attention. And if they don't get that stuff organically, they'll buy it in a troll. They'll buy it and they'll make it synthetic, and they will do all it takes. You know, and you sit there and you just, when you see the scope of this problem and you see the scale and you see how fucking corrupt the digital content, just the industry is, okay? And you try to reconcile that with what you do when you're in digital, when you're trying to do this, when you're on YouTube. Like, I've always just seen it as a bit of a, you know, shits and giggles kind of thing. So it's, you know, the stakes aren't that high for me. But at the same time, I'm in digital. I'm trying to sell my ideas. I'm trying to sort of write more and produce more content and thought leadership and, you know, all that sort of stuff, right? But at the same time, at what point, there is literally no way. I spent the last, probably better part of sort of the last 6 weeks trying to map out a way of doing this in a way that I felt, you know, where I could avoid this stuff. Because, you know, I already use Twitter. I'm already outrageous on there. You have to be. That's the reality. You have to be. To get seen, you have to be. That's why I joked about this thumbnail. It's funny. That thumbnail's funny. But, you know, I mean, I'm surprised people still fall for that bullshit. But, hey, there's a fool born every minute. But at the same time, I've been trying to figure out a way of doing this stuff in a way that doesn't fucking fuck people in the head. And the problem is that, you know, like, this is the balance that we've got. because there's a lot of stuff that needs to be talked about. But the second you fucking talk about it, some fucker takes it and turns it into some wild fucking libs of TikTok bad faith bullying exercise. And it's just like, okay, you need to either accept that you're never going to be seen. You need to accept that this is going to be a hobby that doesn't actually make you any money. You need to accept that you're not going to attract, an enthusiastic, loyal audience, because I'm trying to de-radicalize people. When you de-radicalize people are less fucking likely to pay money and less likely to, obsessively watch you. That's just the psychology of it. There's not much you can do. But again, these things are in conflict with each other. We've got all this censorship happening on YouTube, which is, again, overblown, taken by fuckwits. Legitimate issue is in the middle here, and then around it there's this whole culture wars bullshit. Okay. Sick of it. I'm fucking tired of it. I'm fucking exhausted. And this anti-vax shit has just worn me out. Now, I cannot believe that people are just openly bragging about being horrible to people. Like people who are just, yes, queen, because someone's like, someone turned up and it was to clean my house and they were a proud anti-vaxxer, so I got rid of them. And then I called their agency and complained. What the fuck? Who are you? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like that we think, and also the fact that you would write that and think that people are on your side. It's a horrible thing to do to somebody. I just don't understand. And it's not about the person, because this person don't watch my shit anyway. But I'm just saying, like, this is the stuff that I see it's just one major example that I can think of where there's nobody fucking asking, like, what the fuck is happening to people? Where the most reasonable of people have just fucking flipped and gone, okay, well, I'm a cunt now. What the fuck? Oh, but I have the right, correct view. So that makes me no more, I'm not a cunt anymore, because people will fucking ignore that because I'm on the right side of the fucking argument. And this just keeps happening over and over and over again. And this is that constant conflict that this whole industry has. And so that's what I've had a break on. I went, I'm going to take a break, see if I miss it. I do. I like this. I like just ranting. Okay. Paul thinks it's good for me to have someone in here, in this box, to rant to and complain to, rather than, because when I'm not doing it here, I'm doing it to him, which is funny. But, and I've got a lot to say. I think that unfortunately, I find myself, this is back to where I started, which is why I started the channel, which was that I was having trouble getting my message out, having trouble sort of articulating myself, having trouble because, people just don't read long form content like they used to. Really, no shit. Everyone's done all the research, but not much reading by the looks of it. Anyway, fuck me. But see, this is my dilemma. I constantly alternate between be charitable, be kind, be understanding, try to understand the science, be logical, be curious, read the evidence, all these things. And also, you people have lost your fucking minds. You fucking idiot. And that's the oscillation. I think that I oscillate between those two states all the time. I'm sure most of us feel that way. I think anybody reasonable is having their patience tested by everybody at the moment, because most of the people in my network, and I don't know whether it's just because, I don't have a lot of offline interactions anymore because a lot of my stuff is just virtual now. And it's just laziness. All my friends are fucking useless at catching up. It's not from lack of willingness. It's just our crew, right? We're all flakes. But I'm watching everyone just descend into madness. And, again, I could maybe it could just be me who thinks, like first sign of sanity is when you think everyone else is fucking crazy. Maybe it's just me. I don't think it is. Because obviously the science backs me up on this stuff. I said this on Facebook. I did a little bit of a sort of practice rant to get the sort of poison out before I did this stream. And I was basically like, for all those people that are saying that they just only believe in science and only believe in empirical data and only believe in evidence and fucking trust the science, why don't you listen to the science on radicalization? Why don't you listen to the science on mental health? Why don't you listen to the science on online addiction? Why don't you listen to the science of cults? Why don't you listen to the research around in social psychology that says that when you judge somebody who's already fucking paranoid and a little bit radicalized, that if you fucking say anything and judge them and openly mock them, what that's going to do is send them further down the fucking rabbit hole. Where's your science there? Anyway, everyone's lost their fucking minds. Trust the fucking science. What about history? What about the empirical data around Monsanto? I'm by no stretch of the imagination a fucking anti-vaxxer, but these people just test my fucking limit. I wish I was. Excuse me. I get to the point where I wish that I was fucking not reasonable and I was an anti-vax fucking anti-lockdown motherfucker just so that I would annoy those fucks. That's where we are. But that's my contrarian nature. Like I said, we oscillate, right? Anyway, hi, I hope you're well. I'm fine. But this is the dilemma that someone like me has, right? Which is that 3 years ago now, I quit tech for the same reasons. Okay, I quit doing digital agency work. Okay, quit doing user experience work because I realized that after a decade of pushing, longer than that, but it really came to the surface sort of a decade ago. Sorry, give off, you know what I meant. After years and years of trying to inject some ethical thinking, right, some duty of care conversations between designers and users and business owners and their users, and I saw that it was actually falling on deaf ears, and I thought that it was just that not enough people were hearing me. Okay, but it wasn't. It was that it was just it wasn't it was a feature, not a bug. Okay. It wasn't a bug. I thought I'd spotted a bug, but it was actually a feature. And so this is where my dilemma, because 3 years ago, I decided that I couldn't do this anymore. Okay. I was burnt out. I couldn't keep in good conscience, keep telling people that, using these patterns, if you do this thing with the marketing funnel, if you campaign this way, if you put this money on Facebook ads, you do that, and you build your website, all that sort of stuff. Okay. And also, design went very conversion focused, very algorithm focused, SEO, all that sort of stuff. Okay. Sorry, search engine optimization, like Google search, optimizing for Google. And all, if you look, but then, I don't know about you, but in the last 5 years, the fucking internet's become fucking unusable. It's unpleasant. It's unusable. It is unbearable. My whole fucking life involves fucking identifying what is a bicycle in a fucking recapture. It's fucking pop-ups. It's fucking fuckwits on fucking Twitter. It's fuckwits on Facebook. Right? It is fucking pop-ups, fucking recapture, fucking, are you a robot? No, I'm not a robot. You fuck. And it's literally the opposite. It's the opposite to everything that I signed up for. You got people who were fucking radicalized by politics who are using this fucking marketing funnel. But the worst part of it was that my peers had no problem with it. There's this weird, where nobody, whenever I would speak, the fucking sound of 1,000 assholes sucking all the air out of the room. I've become pretty used to that sound by now. It's pretty fun. I like it. It's like when Eric Weinstein goes into a clubhouse room. Oh, there you go. There's a fucking throwback. Remember Clubhouse? It was a brief moment, wasn't it? Anyway, but every time you just suck the air out of the room when you talk about ethics, or when you talk about dark patterns, or when you talk about, because it was like, well, rules for thee, not for me kind of shit. They don't want it to keep that out of their toolkit because everybody knows, hush, hush, that when it comes to the crunch, we will do whatever it takes to meet those numbers and those KPIs and get those fucking conversions. And I wouldn't do it anymore. And so I spent sort of 2 years limping, saying, no, I won't do that work anymore. I won't do that type of work. I won't do sort of pay-per-click ads. I won't do any targeting. I won't, I would strongly recommend that you don't use, the cookies and spy analytics and all that sort of stuff. I have an ethical problem with this. This is not what I signed up for. But, you go, the other day I fucking Googled something. You're like, how much, I have to interface with all this stuff as a user experience designer who had a very clear idea of what a good user experience looked like. And now it's just none of that fucking exists anymore. Because I've been developing my website. And a big part of developing websites is having search tabs open for when you encounter, bugs or problems or errors or, whatever. And just you Google anything. And it's just some fucktard who doesn't give you what you want. Over Christmas, I'm like, I just wanted to find out where I could get a particular Borderlands 3 gun with which boss and what their location was. It took me 5 fucking goes because they've all optimized for that fucking thing. And it's like what the fuck? That is not what this was. That is not what search engine optimization was. I did a little article my articles are never little, but I did an article on long tail SEO and why that sort of mass formation psychosis, was a particular term used by the right because they'd already had a bunch of fucking content ready to go so they could own that keyword on Google. That's a common strategy. And I went, aha, I see what they're doing now. Okay. I mean, I knew they did it anyway, but it was just plain as day what had happened because there were articles posted in all these this right-wing, this network of right-wing fucking, channels in the US. They're known to everybody. But they'd been published sort of, the day before Robert Malone was on Rogan. So they were ready to go when people started Googling it so they could own that space and capture you. It doesn't exist. It's not real. You can't Google it. It's not on Wikipedia or anything like that. If you Google mass psychosis, it's on Wikipedia and it refers to mass hysteria. But mass formation psychosis, that's a keyword strategy, okay, where you get sort of something really specific and corner that word, okay. But this is all the stuff that I know where I'm like, I can't in good conscience do this anymore. And it's just like, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I try to stay optimistic and I keep seeing some of these things as design and engineering problems. The engineers see them only as engineering problems, and that's a fucking mistake. And that's why I also had to get out, because engineers won't listen to anybody. They won't even listen to designers, let alone fucking psychologists. Okay. They won't even listen to data that doesn't affirm their fucking, it's endemic in tech, which is just these engineering fucks are making decisions when they don't even have girlfriends, for fuck's sake. Barely touch a woman. Yet they're fucking deciding what like humans are and humans like and how humans behave and dictating that. Like, that's fucked. Good God. Anyway, nothing against engineers. Anyway, yeah, so I just kind of had this little, I had to go back and think about it, and I go, okay, well, how do I do this thing? What do I do? How do I know that I'm contributing to this and still do it? Still justify. See, the thing is that one thing that I try not to do is rationalize something. I try to be honest with myself as much as possible. Not always. I'm not always honest with myself, but I try. Okay. Some people don't even fucking bother. But I generally try to, apply Socratic thinking to myself as much as possible. And so I was like, okay, well, what do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Do you need to make money? Are you incentivized by clicks and money? Well, the answer's always been no. I mean, I've been pretty honest about that. It would be nice if I could make it a thing where I could justify it, not rationalize it, but justify it, because it's a lot of work and a lot of energy, all that sort of stuff. A lot of admin, and a lot of liability. People don't realize I have to have a company just to talk on YouTube in case I fuck up and get sued. Like, there's expense involved with this stuff. If you're doing it correctly and not a fucking moron who thinks that this is just an iPhone for lols, until they get sued or until they fucking get a copyright strike, or until, there's always, again, these are things I know. I know how to do things correctly. Bros on the internet like telling me how to do things correctly, but it's like, no, it takes longer than you think to do things the right way. Because when you do things the easy way, remember who I am and what I've done with my career. When you do things the easy way, there's a big fucking gotcha at the end. Usually there's a catch. Okay. And that's why I've spent so much time just, as much as I'm frustrated, making sure that I'm not dependent on something like Substack or, anything like that. I can use my own stuff or move as soon as possible if anything happens. So, I like to own as much as possible, but that takes time and skill and expense and, 6 months, 3 months in my case, still going. It's not easy. If you think it's easy, go ahead. Give it a go. Anyone who thinks it's easy isn't good at it. Anyone who thinks that what I do is easy doesn't know my job. Because that's like someone changing a Band-Aid and thinking that a fucking surgery, they could just handle surgery, or they change an oil leak and think they could fucking pull apart and put together a car. It's not the same thing. Anyway, that's a side rant. But I just started to, it's just like, well, okay, so once I start to think about that, like, how do I balance this? Okay, well, I don't want to do it for fucking nothing. I don't want to be incentivized by money, but I don't want to do it for nothing. I appreciate having patrons. That's really great. I love that. Same thing with writing and all that stuff. I like being, but we're at that point where it's like, well, you got to make at some point you got to make a livable fucking wage. And as much as it, as much as it's nice of people to do small donations, you can't live on it, right? And I appreciate it, but you can't live on it. I'm sure you know what I'm saying. But I don't want to be incentivized or driven by money and clicks. See the problem? See the circular problem here. But I also don't want to touch anything that I feel is doing more harm than good. So in order to get the clicks or get more money, you need to be more outrageous, which means that you do harm. See where you go? See where it leads. And then if you go, okay, well, in order to participate in the issues that I want to talk about without, hyperbole, and I mean, we still have a laugh and it's still funny and stuff, but without the crazy shit, right? Without okay. Dumb culture wars, dumb fuck stuff. Okay? Anyone can do what fucking trigonometry and that lot do. It's low-hanging fruit. It doesn't take thought. Okay? It takes a booking. It's not hard stuff. Okay? Oh, okay. It's not easy, but it's not the most difficult. It's not the most challenging, nor is it the most ethical. And this is where it's just like when you're whipping your audience up into a frenzy, that's always on my mind. It's always on my mind. That's why I have just, as much as I try to be understanding and charitable, I have so little time for people like Tim Pool and Dave Rubin because they know better, right? And they're doing it anyway. And that's the thing that concerns me is when they know better. Well, I don't know if Dave Rubin does. Tim Pool definitely knows what he's doing. And this is where it's like, well, okay, what do you do? But then if I turn around and go, well, okay, so if I'm going to continue to do YouTube, which I actually really love it, okay, I really enjoy it. I like hanging out, okay. I really enjoy just hanging out, shooting the shit, having a laugh. And, people give me really good feedback and they say that hearing me speak like this is actually a relief and I'm just being honest and, I'm refreshing, okay. Panic buy me like Panadol. No, not really. But you sit there and, okay, this is where my brain has been, which is, okay, so how do you be ethical, not motivated by clicks, knowing full well that what you're contributing to is unethical and is designed around clicks? But you like doing it. That's, what's the price of admission for you? That, what's the acceptable price of admission for you? What's a cost that you can bear? Now, for me, it really depends on the harm that you do. Okay, so for me, I know this, and I can promise you that I won't. Anyone who's watching, that I won't lie. I won't misrepresent things. I will never misrepresent, where I'm at, what I'm thinking, or anything like that in order to make a buck. Well, first of all, I'm a shit liar. I can barely hold a coherent fucking thought, let alone remember enough to lie. Lies require you to concentrate. But once you start to sort of unpick a lot of this ethical shit, and you go, okay, well, I've got to participate. And then I go, well, okay, then if X, then Y. Okay. Again, logic, which is if you're willing to trade off some things to do YouTube that doesn't pay you anything and doesn't give you clicks and doesn't give you sort of much of anything, why the fuck did you quit the $250 an hour fucking consulting that you did? Can't you do that? The answer is no, because it's full of corporate cunts, but that's I'm saying a different fucking problem. But it raises that question constantly, which is like, well, why not make your content free and make fucking rich people pay you? But that's sort of, yeah. So this is why I took some time, because I've just been going back and forth and back and forth. And really all I've come to is that, because also with the tiers and all that sort of stuff, it changes the dynamic of the relationship. Okay, so I'm a big fan, a big supporter of, you might not know, you may not have heard of this, you may have heard of this, but transactional versus relational thinking, okay? Now, everyone in our life knows a transactional thinker, okay? What's in it for me at every fucking minute? What do you got? What do I get? What's in it for me? Right? Our whole ecosystem, this whole digital ecosystem, our whole fucking society, okay? The whole middle class is just focused around transactional thinking, okay? In my business, I encountered transactional thinkers. Some of you would call them users. But people who are just sort of quid pro quo all the time versus relational thinking. And I've always just done business, friendships, relationships, everything this way, which is I figure that if I do what I want to do with good faith, okay, and I trust that I'm doing the right thing, and I trust that I'm being kind, and I trust that I'm doing, and if I'm kind to you and I continue to be, and I'll do favors for you and, all that stuff, it may or may not come back to me, but that's not why I do things. Transactional thinking I find poisonous and destructive. It's very common in the digital business, okay? I prefer sort of the more relational model and relational approach, which is I'll just, scratch your back, scratch mine, maybe if you get time, okay? And that's sort of, that's always how I've run things, and I've always done okay as a result, because I just prefer to do things that way. And that's why when I was trying to think about how I would monetize and be, again, I can't just, again, this comes back to people expecting everything for free, getting content for free, paywalls, not paying for money, not paying for content, all that sort of stuff. Okay. Now the problem with paywalls is that it creates, I'm writing about this at the moment, I've been working on it for a week in between other things, which is this idea of an information desert, much like food deserts. Paywalls create information deserts, and because of what happens with the sort of, it's called asymmetrical polarization, asymmetrical propaganda, that it's heavily dominated by Fox News and the Murdoch press and, all of that sort of stuff, because, and this whole sort of ecosystem of fucking, and it is a thing, okay? Stop denying it. The thing is that it's all built, there's all these things that are just built in. They're all thought-terminating cliches, okay? It's a fucking thing. All the evidence points to the fact that this is just fucking absolutely GOP-run, outraged Christian bullshit, okay? Now, not against the Christians. When I say Christian, I mean a specific narrow brand of fuckwit, right? The US right. Fucking, fuck it up for everybody. But fundamentalists in the US. Well, I suppose when I say fundamentalists, they're all fundamentalists. Political fundamentalists, whether you're woke or fucking MAGA or Christian or whatever. It's always or capitalist. There's a fundamentalism there. The definition of fundamentalism is that you don't believe in the separation of church and state, okay? And that you believe that your ideology is the sort of default. Anyway, so the United States is by default Christian fundamentalist. In God we trust, right? Anyway. Invisible hand. I know Adam Smith wasn't American, but anyway, whatever. What was I going to say? What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So the transactional and relational thinking. So what I thought, I was just like, okay, so how do I solve this problem? Is that, because, information deserts. And this idea that with a food desert, which is that you can tell people to eat healthy, you can tell them to have a better lifestyle, you can tell them, to exercise and all these sorts of things, right? But it's one thing, and it's actually common in rural Australia as well, okay? But it's which is that that's very much linked to living in the city, having access to fresh produce and or fertile soil. Okay, having again, if you extend the idea of the food desert to other things in class, which is that there's barriers to accessing these things. Yes, the science says that if you eat lots of fruit and vegetables or eat low carb, have you ever tried eating low carb for more than fucking 2 weeks at a time? Yeah, exactly. Okay, I live at home. I work at home. I'm home most of the time. I have access to produce, okay? And I find it fucking boring as shit, okay? Anyway, also I can't eat meat, so much meat, so it's different. Anyway, but, so like a food desert, which is it's all right for someone with a Whole Foods or, some sort of, wanker alternative to fancy fucking $11 bunches of radish and shit. But what if you're poor? Okay, what if you don't have access? What if there isn't that kind of food in your area? Okay, that requires money, access, it to be available, to be fresh, to be grown in soil that's actually nutritious. Like a lot of the food that's produced is not actually as nutritious as it could be because it's various fucking pollution and whatever the fuck. You get the idea of a food desert. Information desert's very similar, which is that once you paywall content, you immediately create a barrier for people who need reliable information. Okay, now I'm not saying that I have, I'm not a journalist. Okay, I'm not providing research. I'm not providing anything else. But a big part of the reason why most of these conspiracy theories have been fucking like so pervasive, okay, is because all of the good, well-researched media is paywalled, or it is behind journals, or it is behind, it's behind some kind of paywall. And this is the dilemma that we've got. And and also it's a big part of their strategy I hate that. But, the GOP fucking, that propaganda strategy, okay, which is, it's absolutely a thing. All the data indicates that this is what's going on. This is fucking settled. Okay, this isn't me just slagging off Joe Rogan as right wing. I'm saying figures like Joe Rogan get used for this purpose. Okay, by whatever bad guys, whether he consents to it or not. But so an information desert, you have that same thing, which is that there is a big part of the problem is that you've got a Murdoch media ecosystem, funk piece fuckfaces, okay, who are 19 years old, have no fucking idea what they're talking about, making $100 on fucking Vice or whatever the fuck, Jezebel, and all those ad-supported fucking things, while all the decent media, aside from the mainstream media who fucking double dip the whole time, fuck them people. It's one or the other. It's ads or paywall. Fuck off. Anyway. But what this is there's this whole right-wing ecosystem that basically just floods the internet with this shit, okay? And it's the only thing that people see, because the good stuff has to be paid for. And this is, again, the conflict. So everyone expects me to work for free. I would love to, because I don't want to be another, contributing to the problem of the information desert. People won't pay for content unless you sort of, say the stuff that they want. This is the fucking problem and this is the thing that most content creators won't talk about, because most of them are being dishonest about the trade-offs. Most of them are being dishonest about these trade-offs, okay? And so this is what's happening. Users expect everything for free, everything to just be clicked on, everything to just be easy and affirming, and affirm their worldview, not challenge them in any fucking way, or they take their money away. Fuck you. I'm going to go pay someone else because there's a new player in town. Do you know how many new anti-fucking woke dickheads have surfaced on YouTube since I started? It's so funny. I'm not anti-woke, but you know what I mean. I'm generally pro-woke. I'm anti-radicalisation and anti-fuckwit. I tend to be more woke than the woke. And I'm actually quite incredibly sympathetic to a lot of this stuff. I'm trying to de-escalate a lot of these conversations because there's a whole lot of people that are really not well. And there's a whole lot of people who are giving free bullshit. I'm starting to think that the information is very much worth what you pay for it. And that's unfortunate, right? Problem is, if you get your food out of the dumpster, that's probably a bad example. You get what I'm saying. Slightly chewed, let's just say, it's not going to be the freshest. But this is the constant conflict that the internet's created. But it's also fucking unpleasant. Everyone's double dipping, okay? And scammers are fucking it for everyone. So I have to say what a fucking crosswalk looks like in order to look up the fucking, I don't know. Fuck me. To log in to products that I pay for, I have to do a series of challenges. Fuck me. That are basically the sorts of things that I did when I was fucking in my case, 18 months. But, for most people, 3. Oh, look, crosswalk. Traffic light. Fuck me. And those bots. Can anyone tell me why? Okay, I'm going to go now. Spam bots can't tell what a crosswalk is versus a bicycle. They can, by the way. But Twitter lets the same fucking bots make all the fucking decisions. What the fuck? Don't the spam bots show? Doesn't reCAPTCHA show that these fucking bots like shouldn't be making human fucking decisions if they can't even get into a fucking Jesus fucking Christ. Anyway. How you doing? Anyway. I'm going to come back on Monday, so I'm just not going to keep this on. But I just wanted to sort of riff a little bit, but I also wanted to just, this is where my head is at, and this is the conflict that no one is talking about because they benefit from it. And once you start talking about this stuff, you start to watch the concessions that are made by various people, okay? You start to watch what concessions are made, who doesn't talk about certain things, who doesn't call out certain people, who leaves out certain things, okay? Now, again, I started this saying I was very fortunate. I don't say lucky. I'm not lucky. I'm fucking unlucky. I'm fortunate to not have 100% bad luck. How's that sound? I work fucking hard. I work around the clock, okay? I'm not fucking lucky. But what I'm saying is that, it is still a privilege to be able to have a sort of, okay, examine this and make a decision. I'm being charitable to a certain point. Because if you're choosing between making, say, a living wage, okay, I have absolutely zero fucking problem with anyone doing whatever it takes. Fucking handies in the fucking back of a car park. I don't give a fuck. You could blow 12 people in a day. None of my fucking business. You're trying to live, okay? Cool. Do what you got to do, okay? But there comes a point where there's a threshold where how you make more money, that then becomes something that you need to fucking address, okay? So when I talk about, these people are fucking making all this money, I'm talking about those with 1 million subscribers who would still have 500,000 and still have, $500,000 a year versus, say, $2 million a year. Talking about someone like Alex Jones, who came out $55 million he made last year, and every fucking week he's saying how poor he is. And persecuted. Wish I was that fucking persecuted. Can someone persecute me, please? I could do with some of that fucking persecution. It's one thing, okay, 100 grand a year. Okay, let's be generous. 150, 200 grand a year. Okay, let's be generous. After that, you got to start really fucking self-reflecting, okay, and examining what you're doing. And there's a point where it becomes unethical. There's a difference between survival and, like I said, do whatever the fuck you want to survive. It's a hard world, okay? I hate the fact that it's like that, okay? Do what you got to do. I'm not judging anybody who's just trying to make a living. But if you're fucking deliberately lying to people, deliberately misleading people, when you could be more honest and still make a lot of money compared to a lot of people, then that's something that you need to examine and honestly look at yourself. That's all I'm saying, is that, and that's what I said. I've always, when I've had to choose between ethics and money, I've always chosen ethics. But I also don't want to sit here pretending like, this isn't complicated and that people aren't complicated beings, and that in order to self-examine this stuff, you need to know this stuff. You need to know how it works. A lot of people just fall into this. A lot of the people who are doing these things are just people with failed comedy careers or failed, media careers or whatever. They're not sort of experts in their field. I'm someone who's an expert in my field who sort of did this to increase my skills. It's a different thing. I already have a sort of, a career behind me. Hopefully more ahead of me. I'm not convinced that I do, but I like to think that I do. But it's just, this is where I've just been thinking about a lot of this stuff. It's exhausting being me, especially when I sit there and I just watch the symptoms day in, day out. Like, the internet's so fucking unpleasant. Like, it's just unbearable. Sick of you fucks. Not you lot. Everyone on the internet. How dare you? It used to be fun. Anyway, I'm going to go. I just, wanted to rip the Band-Aid off. I'm finishing my website. Okay. I know I've been saying that since the last stream. But I just, part of what makes me good at what I do is actually that I care and I take the time and it's not sort of cookie cutter stuff, and I'm trying to do it the way that makes me happy, and it's not even close to where I want it to be. And I keep getting distracted by making cool things, and, because you can just go to my website, and if I have a stream scheduled now, a banner will pop up that says there's a countdown to it and the links to both Facebook and YouTube. It doesn't say when you schedule a stream, you can't get a link to Twitter or Twitch. So it's just the link to the channels there. But you will get the exact link to YouTube and the scheduled Facebook thing on my page. Okay, so that's pretty cool. But that could have waited. Could have written some essays. Could have actually gotten the information desert article done. Priorities. Uni's back soon too. I've got to get my shit together. And I got client work to do. But, so basically my whole thing was, like, in terms of paywalls, I would prefer it if people just trusted me and wanted to be a sponsor, and I still just made it free. That ideally. Otherwise, I could just consult and make it free and just tell clients to get fucked themselves if they have a problem with what I say. Because I've got clauses in my contract that protect me anyway. But it's just, it's a tricky thing. I wish people would stop pretending that this was easy. And these are things I've often used, like this digital work stuff. I've used this before in a business digital context, but, it's like think of a surgeon, okay? When you get your surgeon, you've got a surgeon. Lots junior surgeons, all they do is they pull out a fucking, they do gallbladder appendicitis, gallbladder appendix, gallbladder appendix, gallbladder appendix, gallbladder appendix, gallbladder appendix, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, it's pretty routine. If you can cut into a person and know roughly where to go, you can remove someone's appendix. Okay. Again, I'm saying if you're already a trained doctor. But what happens when that gallbladder or that appendix goes wrong, they always call the fucking person who can stop the bleeding and stop their hemorrhage. Okay, and that's what I've always prided myself on, which is in that regard is doing the rescue work. So when people sort of talk about this content shit like it's easy, yeah, they're fine till they get fucking suspended and lose their Twitter account, or Substack goes out of business and doesn't have an API and you've got no backup. Substack has no backups. Okay, you dickheads. Medium kicks you off because, they just decided that you can't have that view right now because it fucking, affects their bottom line. Who do you call then? That's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, it's one thing to, or your iPhone, okay? You think that you can just do iPhone? Yeah, okay. As long as the light's good. I mean, iPhones are actually pretty good now, but I'm saying generally speaking, okay. You can go on Envato and get like basic graphics and templates and like, lower 2/3 and stuff. Yeah, it'll do you the job. It'll lose you a job if you use it and pass it off as your own in a commercial setting. Stock photography. Okay, this is one that I use with clients, which is, yeah, you can use stock photography, but if you right click on that image, go on, Use that free fucking stock photo. Right-click that image. See how fucking many can come up. This is your brand, okay? You want it to be unique. Now, again, like I said, trade-offs. Some people trade off the risk. Some people don't. I refuse not to. I try to avoid trade-offs as much as possible. But some people just go into this thinking that their fucking Wix website is at all equivalent to my 25 years of experience. Not the case. Or a bespoke thing, okay? It might not work like Facebook, or it might not work like that. But you know what? Facebook's got billions of dollars and 50,000 employees, okay? Their user experience team is, like 1,000 people. I think it's actually a couple hundred. But anyway, what I'm saying, their design team. It's just like, yeah, fucking, can you start valuing stuff? Because a lot of this comes back to people expecting the internet, everything free. Expect transactional shit. And if $2, $3, if you value it, then you pay for it. Like, it's just, yeah. But that's another thing. Like, that's what I meant about, Patreon tiers was very much, it became more about, rather than me just, being paid for the work that I produce and making it work and scaling and, pay what you can. Instead, it creates a transactional dynamic where I'm pressured to put stuff out all the time, or I burn out, or I end up saying stuff just for the sake of saying it, not saying it because I think it's right or because it's correct. And I'm sorry, but I just can't dedicate full-time resources and time to delivering on people who pay me $10 a month. I know that that's a horrible thing to say, and I'm not saying I don't appreciate it. You see this constant tension, which is that you can be both extremely grateful for it, but also be dragged down by the fucking reality of the fact that you don't work for someone just because they give you $5. Okay. And that's the problem. I'd rather go back to consulting and just do that and then say, nope, I will only work with you if you are okay with me doing what I do. Most of them aren't. It's part of the problem, but that's okay. But anyway, this is just what I've been thinking about. Okay. I don't just sit around not thinking. I think too fucking much. But anyway, hopefully a pay what you can, good faith fucking thing where you just pay because it's right is enough, or because I'm the fucking one of 3 people left in this fucking world who still has a synapse left. Anyway, I love you. I haven't said this in a while. I love you. Thank you for your precious life seconds. I'll be probably back on Monday or Tuesday. I haven't decided yet, but see how I go. I've been quite tired, quite burnt out and tired, but we'll get there. Love you. Bye. How do we go? I haven't set this shit up. Hey.